back, it's the height of summer, it's hot, it's humid. What fragrance are you going to wear? It's so interesting that some people wear the same fragrance all year round. And for me, you know, I have my favourites. I have my molecules that are super light, that Molecular One, an eccentric molecule, that are easy to layer all year round. And then again, I have my passions, which are things like Portrait of a Lady, which don't seem right in hot, humid, sunny weather. So I'm going to look at my favourite fragrances to lighten up for summer. To be honest, these are so gorgeous. You know me, I'm a bit of a fragrance snob. They are very diverse, very beautiful, but they just have a sort of airy, summery freshness to them somewhere down the line, even the sexiest ones, which means that they're perfect for summer. Let's start with people that make such good fragrances, okay? So let's start with Replica Maison Margiela. There are so many of these fragrances that I like. Basically, the designers at Maison Margiela work with perfumers to create feelings of memories. So, for example, there's I've got one here that is Under the Lemon Tree, which is one of my favourite ones for summer. And then there's Whispers in the Library. Now, Whispers in the Library is to me much more sort of sweet and warming, much more autumnal. But Under the Lemon Tree, one of the things that most summer fragrances have is a sort of zestiness. And I don't mean a direct citrusy smell about them, because I've got a rhubarb one here and I've got a rose one here and I've got a lavender one here. But there's a sort of spirited top note about them that makes them quite airy and quite light, so that you can get into them very quickly. They don't necessarily have to warm down on the skin, but when they do warm down on the skin, they have kind of quite a sort of nuzzly soft effect rather than a sort of heavy va-va-voom effect. Anyway, Under the Lemon Tree is absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful gift for anybody. It smells like sitting under a lemon tree in a lemon grove in Sicily. So it's sunny, it's lemony, it's warm, it's really, really, really beautiful. The packaging is lovely. You know that all of the Replica bottles look identical, and then they just have their little labels written on them. I've already sprayed this so many times today. I mean, it's a pretty sexy citrus. It's absolutely gorgeous. It smells originally like landing in Turkey or landing in Greece, and you get on one of those buses when you're really young, or you get on a coach, and then the coach driver tends to spray that archetypical EDT smell around that you get a lot of right on down south in the Mediterranean. So it originally smells like that, but then it soon warms and it becomes so much more, so sexy. It's quite sherbety, quite kind of fizzy almost. It's really, really beautiful. It's an unbelievably sexy fragrance. It's really lovely. It's unisex like most of the Replica fragrances. It says it was the provenance and period is Palermo 1987. Hello, my era. It's really, really gorgeous. It's like the most sophisticated, sexy take on one of those Turkish Greek EDTs that gets splashed around left, right and centre whenever you go into any Turkish or Greek store back in the 80s when I first went travelling through Europe. It's a gorgeous one. It's an absolutely gorgeous one. If you love citrus fragrances, then you're going to love it. But it's more sophisticated and intelligent than most citrus fragrances. It's not single layered at all. It's really, really, really beautiful. It's lovely. And then when we come back in the autumn, I'll introduce you to Whispers in the Library, which is very sexy. Where do you go from there? How about to lavender? Now, lavender is not something I like the smell of. To me, I associate it with my grandmother. Not that there's anything wrong with my grandmother. She was an absolutely wonderful lady, but she loved that very heavy, traditional draw liner lavender smell. So who's going to reinvent lavender? I tell you who's going to reinvent lavender. Tom Ford's going to reinvent lavender. Firstly, the flacon of the year. Absolutely beautiful. Super shiny, sort of platinum silver, really beautiful. And this is Tom Ford Lavender Extreme, and it's a lavender with a difference. It's more masculine in the sense that you'll expect most lavenders to be slightly more masculine, and it's lavender, but the zestiness of the lavender, and lavender does have a zest about it, is tempered by quite a sort of almost traditional powdery feel to it. It's got a very vanilla-y, powdery feel to it, which means that it's probably a nice one for the end of the summer when you're beginning to come back and you're beginning to sort of settle in again. The powdery, vanilla-y feel you'll either love or you'll loathe. But in a way, it's sort of an ode to your grandmother in the sense that it's the combination of the two fragrances that she most commonly used, which was body powder, so talcum powder, which has a really strong vanilla note to it, which is really quite comforting, and then that sort of cut through zestiness of lavender. It's a really, really, really interesting one. I think it's a little bit Marmite-y, but trust me, if anybody's going to reinvent lavender, it's going to be Tom. It's very, very clever, really interesting notes. Yeah. It's a Marmite one. I find it interesting. I'm not sure if I'd actually wear it, but I think if you know you love lavender, which a new generation of people don't associate it with that sort of slightly fusty, musty feeling that I have, that my generation have, then it's one to try. It's lavender on steroids. That's what it is. Now, love or loathe rose. I'm not a huge fan of rose. However, I do know that if Jo Malone, who obviously is no longer associated with Jo Malone, and now runs Jo Loves, if she's going to think about rose, she's automatically going to make it zesty and light. That's what Jo's famous for. Jo is famous for zesty, light, grapefruit, citrus, fragrances. She loves orange, she loves lemon, she loves grapefruit. She just loves that sort of light, airy feel. And if ever you meet her and you hug her, she sort of smells like a lemon grove, like an orange grove. She just really knows how to create great citrus fragrances. Well, her take on rose is really interesting because it's unbelievably green for a rose. It's not that sweet. It's much more about the sap and the earth and the rose buds almost, rather than that full blousy, drowsy high summer blossom. This is almost like taking the earth and the sap and the leaves and the stems, complete with the thorns, and then crushing it all together and then smelling it along with a few petals. It's much greener, it's a little bit citrusy. English roses, I know she's called it rose petal, but to me, it's about the entire rose. It really is. It's really green, it's very beautiful. If you love roses, you might not automatically associate it with that blousy, petally, velvety soft feel, but it is a really lovely fragrance. It's a really lovely fragrance. What else have we got? Well, who wants to rethink rhubarb? I have got the Floral Street rhubarb fragrance here, and it doesn't smell of rhubarb. Now, this is interesting. I love the packaging of Floral Street. It's so clever. This is just the little travel one that we were given when we went to the launch. It's been done associated with the RHS, which is the Royal Horticultural Society, because they grow more varieties of rhubarb than anybody else. To me, it doesn't smell rhubarby at all. It actually smells of rhubarb and custard sweets, which I don't dislike, but it means it's a sweeter take. Don't think of it as being green and crisp and almost unripened. Think of it almost being like a rhubarb syllabub or a rhubarb fool with sort of cream and vanilla in it. It's a really pretty fragrance. I think a lot of people will love them. Slightly too sweet for me, I must admit, but then, you know, I'm a freak in the sense of fragrances. I like really weird fragrances. However, I think it has a well-deserved place here as being a take on something light and zesty and green for summer. I want to mention a fragrance actually that did launch last year, but I never got the chance to speak about, and that is Hermès Eau de Citron Noir. And again, it's citrus, which I really like. However, this is a lime one. This is lime, black pepper. It's got a tea note in it as well. This is sort of citrus, and they've got a gorgeous bath range that they've just launched as well, which is why, again, I was revisiting this fragrance. Oh, this is lovely. This is, I mean, do Hermès ever do a bad fragrance? I really don't think they do. Everything they do is in the height of good taste. This is like a grown-up lime fragrance. If, for example, you don't like the replica Under a Lemon Tree because it's just too traditional EDT-ish for you, in the sense that it's very like a cologne, a citrus cologne. This is has slightly more of a seductive undertow to it, and I think that's because it's got cool woods in it as well. It's a really lovely fragrance. It's definitely one. They say it's unisex. I definitely think you'd love it on anybody, a best friend, a mother, a father, a lover. It smells, it's gorgeous. It's really lovely. And then I've got two more. I feel like we're going slightly up in price, but I'll bring us back down towards the end. Armani Privé, which is a range of fragrances that come in the most delicious packaging, and they're really lovely. They're really expensive. However, they're more often associated with quite heavy, quite sexy, quite leathery, heavy floral oriental notes and accords. So I was very interested to try their Orangerie Venice. Look at that packaging. I mean, could anything be more beautiful? And I think it's a really, really, really interesting summery fragrance from Armani. They say it's an ode to thriving nature here. It's got something called Bigarade orange in it, which is basically a neroli essence with bergamot. But what I love about it is it dries down to cedarwood, moss and ambroxan, which means it's got that sexy dry undertow to it. I mean, it's gorgeous. Again, you're hit with the simplicity and the clarity and the zest and the zing of citrus. But when it dries on the skin, it's much more come hither. To me, that's the best of both worlds. It's a little bit like the Hermes one. You think you're going in to a straightforward, sexy lime cordial, and then you suddenly find that it's almost got a tequila-like woody mezcal undertow to it. It's really, really, really beautiful. If you can afford it and you love a grown-up citrus fragrance, sniff it out and try and get somebody to buy it for you. It's fabulous. It's really fabulous. So what I'm looking at is zesty summer takes on traditional fragrances. We've done lemon, we've done rhubarb, we've done rose, we've done lime, we've done orange. What is left? Well, you know that Way do fragrances. I've talked about them before. They have Melrose Place, which is very typical sweet white floral, which is very pretty. Not for me in summer, I must admit. Let's go straight as far down to sexy sun-drenched bodies as we can. They have North Bondi, which is obviously formulated to smell a little bit like the fragrances and the skin and the sea and the flora and fauna of Bondi Beach. And it is lovely. For a start, I love the fragrances. I love the packaging. They come in gorgeous plain white cardboard boxes, circular boxes. They're really, really lovely. Bondi is sherbety, it's fresh, but it's also got that skin sexy, warm, almost like suntan oil feel to it. So it's a little bit like the smell of a holiday encapsulated. And by that, I'm not dumbing it down. It doesn't smell of, you know, tequila sunrises and coconut oil. That's too simplistic in terms of summer. This is much more a grown-up, sexy, you're on a boat off Bondi Beach, you know, you've got the sort of salt water and the citrus smells. It's just absolutely beautiful. To me, it's the archetypical summer fragrance to take on holiday. It's really, really lovely. I think the perfumer that they're working with, the fragrance experts they're working with have really captured moments. Melrose Place is a high-end, really lovely, pretty powdery white floral. So it smells of the women that go shopping in Melrose Place. This is much more a sort of sexy, citrusy surfer dude with warm summer skin. It's really, really lovely. So they are my fragrances that are zesty and fruity and summery, but in a very sexy, clean summer, height of summer day way. In the sense that you can wear them on the hottest day and they're not going to feel cloying, they're not going to feel headachy, they're going to smell beautiful and fresh, but all of them have got something interesting and unique in the heart notes and dry downs on them. And I recommend them all, I really do. For me, probably my fragrance, my favourites would be the three citrus ones. So it would be Replica, Under the Lemon Tree, if you like something really traditional cologne and EDT-ish. I like Orangerie Venice by Armani Privé because it's just a really grown-up, gorgeous take on a citrus fragrance, but with beautiful, beautiful soft wood, cool wood undertones. And I do think it's worth revisiting the Hermes Citron Noir because that's exactly what it is. It's like the dark heart of a citrus fragrance, and they're all absolutely beautiful. The smell of holiday for 2019 in a bottle is without a doubt North Bondi by The Way. However, Joe Loves has got a really nice citrusy take on roses. Tom Ford has reinvented lavender if you love lavender, and Floral Street have just done a sort of sweet and quite fun, really, sort of rhubarb and custard fragrance. They're all well worth sniffing out if you want something light and sexy but slightly different but still zesty for summer. What are you loving right now in terms of fragrance? I always say I'm going to do more fragrance pieces, but it takes me so long to find fragrances I really love. I never mention a fragrance that I wouldn't recommend either to somebody to buy or would wear myself or buy for somebody. And actually 99% of the fragrances that are launched are just not for me. So even though there are some here that I technically wouldn't wear, they are fragrances that I would want to smell on somebody. I'd want to drag them in and think, wow, that's interesting, or that's different, or that's unusual. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. That's my take on zesty, hot weather summer fragrances. Even if they don't have citrus notes in them, they have a zestiness, a sparkling, sherbety quality that makes them easy to wear in summer. So you put them on, they're not going to give you a headache, they're not going to feel heavy and occlusive. They're not really nuzzle scents, although some of them do dry down to a gorgeous soft skin, cool wood feel to them, but they are definitely fragrances that will lift your spirit in the flagging hot weather, which makes them all perfect for summer holidays. If you are going anywhere, have a great summer holiday. I'm here for most of the summer. I might be popping abroad for a few days at a time, but I always enjoy my summers in London. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing. Tell me what you're loving in terms of fragrance right now, and I'll see you soon.